Hi, I'm Alistair. I'm from Southwest TAFE in Warrnambool, which is in southwest Victoria. And I basically teach people how to operate earth moving machines and all aspects of civil construction.
And I'm Ben. I'm a civil trainer with Southwest TAFE in Warrnambool. And same deal, teach civil construction.
I got into earth moving industry many years ago. I was working in Western Australia, and I was brickies labouring at the time, and I basically had enough of working hard and being yelled at all day, which is what happens when you work with brickies. I got an opportunity to work for a pipeline crew, and I'd had a bit of experience on machines in the past, bits and bobs. Got an opportunity to work with the pipeline crew. They were a small company. They had a couple of Komatsu machines, a couple of Komatsu loaders. Got employed by them, spent a couple of years pipelining, and then one day our excavator operator quit the job. He's a Kiwi lad, and he left. So there was a job on the excavator, and I was lucky enough for Jim, my employer at the time, to put me in the seat. And he basically said, "Al, you better learn how to operate it."
I was involved in hospitality, grew up in hospitality, and that's what I did, and I got sick of late nights. So a friend of mine had a company in Warrnambool, offered me a job as a truck driver. Drove trucks for a while, ended up then when guys were away, civil construction, started laying pipes, pouring concrete, all that sort of stuff. And in our day, that's how we learnt. You learnt in the trench and then you became an operator. So that was my story.
I generally started on 20 tonners and worked on 20s and 30s for most of my working career. But worked on little 1.5 ton machines and everything in between. Excavators, front end loaders, skid steers, backhoes, you name it. I've worked in road construction, subdivision work, bridge construction, pretty much everything you can think of in the civil game. I've had a little bit of a dabble at.
Yeah, and pretty much the same sort of story. I started in smaller machines when I was operating. From smaller machines, went into larger machines as per the job required it. Spent a lot of time, worked in wind farms, gas plants, and did a stint over in the mines in Western Australia as a civil construction worker. Drove all sorts of machines, excavators, skid steers, loaders, telehandlers, rollers, whatever needed to be driven, I drove.
The reason I got into training initially, and I'll never forget the day, I was working down in a trench. I was about 4.5 metres down in the ground. It was chucking down with rain. I was up to my knees in slop, trying to fix a broken sewer pipe that someone had stuffed up. And I remember looking out the trench, and there was my mate Luke in the excavator, and I looked up and said to him, I said, "Luke, this is the last winter you will ever see me working in a trench doing this." And he just turned around and said, "Yeah, you just got the winter blues, Al." And funnily enough, the very same week, there was an expression of interest in the local newspaper in Warrnambool for a training company. It was called Journey Management, and they were moving into Warrnambool, and they were looking for people with excavator civil experience, truck driving experience, forklift experience, of which I had all three. So I went along to this information night, liked what I saw, and from that point on I enrolled into my TAE teaching qualification, and yeah, so the rest is history. I've been teaching now for 10 years.
Yeah, my training experience came about, I came home from the mines and needed to work. Worked for a local company in Warrnambool for about 6 months and was jack of that. Saw an ad in the paper for Journey Management. We're looking for a civil trainer, someone that knew how to operate machinery, lasers, that sort of stuff, and do some training. Applied with them. That's where I met Al. Got the job from there, and yeah, loved it. Got a passion to teach kids how to drive machines.
Training's vital. Training is really important in this day and age. And I've talked about it many times in the past. When I got my excavator tickets, basically a guy came out on site and said, "Yeah, you seem to know what you're doing. Here's your ticket, answer a few questions." And that was the way it was, 25 years ago. But in a world of compliance in this day and age, it's really important that people are taught the right way from the start. If you teach someone to cut corners in the first place, they'll build on that and they'll cut more corners. And the minute you start cutting corners, you have accidents. So if you can teach people from the very start to do things the right way, then they'll develop their own way of doing things. But I really think it's important, it's vital in every workplace that guys get the proper training so they can operate machines safe and go home every day.
No good operating a machine if you don't know what you're doing, and foremost you need to know the safety aspects of it. That's what we do as part of our training course. Everyone learns the safety aspects first before they even start driving a machine. People need to be ticketed. Most of the accidents that happen are those that have been driving machines, got their tickets in a Weet-Bix box, it just doesn't work in the real world.
Learning operating techniques and learning how to be a safe, efficient operator. As Ben just said, safety is the first thing we do. Teach them in the classroom, this is how you do things safely. Then you get bums in seats on a machine. My way of teaching is always, I jump in the machine, do a demonstration, show them my perfect way of doing it, and then get them in doing it. Now, Ben's got different experience to me. His techniques will be different to mine, but it doesn't mean they're not just as valid. Every operator, over years and years, will learn their own efficient techniques. So I think if you basically give the student the tools to do it right in the first place and give them the basic skills to operate safely, to operate efficiently, from there they'll develop their own little mannerisms and their own techniques, and they'll find their own way with the machines.
All my bosses have told me throughout my life, watch everybody operate, pick the good points, pick the bad points, because no one's perfect. The way I teach them my techniques, I give them a demonstration, show them how I find it's best and easiest for them to use. There's occasions where we do have to change the way we try and teach, just depending on the cohort of student we have. But at the end of the day, you guys come, do a course, you get deemed competent. When you go back out in that workforce, you're still learning. So I think you're always learning, and you'll always learn new ways.
As far as finding work after training, it's definitely an advantage doing training. Now, we've got a couple of different programs that we've run that have developed over the last 5 years since I started at TAFE. Initially, we didn't own any machines, so everything was done as traineeships. So if you wanted to do a Cert 3 Civil, you had to find an employer, do it as a traineeship. So these students are learning on the job, their employers are teaching them, you know, their way of doing things. They're learning the safety in the classroom from us, and then we're assessing them and signing them off after a period of a couple of years in a traineeship. But what we were finding there were a lot of students that didn't have work, they're unemployed, that wanted to learn how to operate machines. So then we had to develop another program where we can take people from the street, unemployed, employed, part-time, want a change of career, and we can say to you, right, we've got a program that's going to run for about 20 weeks, an intensive program. You'll spend every day with us, and when you walk out at the end of that period, you will be able to operate a machine safely. Now, they're not going to be a Formula One driver, you know, after just passing their test. And I always say to students at the end of a course, imagine you're still on your P plates, and the rest will come. But as far as finding students employment, I'll pass that on to Ben, because Ben can probably talk about the success we've had with finding students employment.
I'm still pretty current with all the local guys around town that run business. They are looking for those students that have been, or those type of people that have been trained. You're still going to learn when you're out on the job. That's the whole key to this. We get you to a stage, we get these students to a stage where they're safe, competent in a machine, they can go out and work on a machine. Now, companies are looking for that. We do have a good rapport with local business, so we tend to try and help students out where we can. It's definitely an advantage having your machine tickets before you go looking for employment. The
facility we use for training is out at Glen Ormiston. It's an old agricultural college, and it was disused for a number of years, and the government wanted to try and get something going back on there. So with government incentives, and TAFE spoke to them, and in conjunction with that, we were given funding to set up an earth-moving training centre out at the old Glen Ormiston Agricultural College. So what we've basically got, we've got a big area of dirt, we've got a big gravel pad, a big pad of crushed rock. It's about 30 metres by 30 metres. And at the start of the course, basically the students set it up as if it's a construction site. We get them setting up the temporary fences, the construction site signs. There's a couple of power lines that run across the back of the site, so we get them setting up height indicators for machines to go when they're tracking onto the power lines. So we basically treat it as if they are setting up a live civil construction site from the first day they turn up on site. These guys come out there to Glen Ormiston, great little facility. No one out there to annoy you, so there's not eyes prying on you all the time, which gives the students that sense that they can do what they need to do and achieve what they need to achieve. It's a great setup. It's just like going onto a work site, and that's the way we treat it as trainers, and it's the way we get our students to treat it, because they need to learn what happens in the real world. We've got a 5-ton Kubota excavator, we have a 2-ton Bobcat excavator, we've got a Kubota wheeled skid steer, we've got a Kubota front end loader, multi-pack roller. So they're our basic core machines. We've got a Isuzu tip truck, medium rigid, which we use for loading and unloading the gear. We've got the trailers for the machines, so we can, you know, when we try and unloading and unloading the machinery itself. As well as that, we use trench shields. We've got light guard trench shields which we use, and all, you know, lifting chains and all stuff like that. So basically, on a sort of smaller scale, we do everything that they would on a civil site. You know, using levels, we teach them how to use levels, dumpy levels, laser levels, taking measurements, setting out, pretty much everything you do on a civil site.
Business have said to us at times, you know, how we train these people in smaller machines. The reality is, if you can drive a smaller machine, you can drive a bigger one. Smaller machines are more dangerous as far as I'm concerned, a lot easier to tip over and a lot quicker in their control functions. So the machines we have there are just ideal for these kids and adults to learn how to operate machinery in a safe and correct manner.
Predominantly we do trenching works, excavating, backfilling. On top of that, loading trucks, obviously, which is your bread and butter for any earth moving machine. But on top of that, we do have a couple of attachments that we use. We've got an auger for the excavator, and we've got a chain ditcher and a smudge bar for the skid steer. So while we don't have a whole range of attachments, we do have a couple so the students can get a bit of an idea about changing attachments and using the machines to do different operations. We run a range of different courses at Southwest TAFE. I myself do high-risk work licensing, forklifts and elevator work platforms. I also do a lot of the short course format stuff like working in confined spaces, working at heights, traffic management, and all those other short course formats. I also look after a heap of trainees who are doing a 2-year traineeship in civil construction. So they already have an employer, they get employed by a local company or a local council, and then they put them on as a trainee. They have a partnership with Southwest TAFE, and then we spend the next 2 years mentoring them, covering all the safety, all the theory, all the assessment stuff, while the employers teach them a lot of the stuff in the workplace. And then the other courses which Ben looks after, I'll let him explain.
Yeah, so the course I predominantly teach is an 18-week Civil Construction Cert 3. We teach, so it runs for 18 weeks. It is white card, traffic management, then you move on into the machinery. So we do excavator, skid steer, loader, roller operations, all tickets of competency. We then also do, to finish the course, we also do forklift training. So they do forklift licence, they get their do confined space as well. And in between, there's a lot of safety units that we do. So there's about 26 units we do all told in that 18-week course, and they all just revolve around the operation of machinery in a workplace.
I've got a vested interest in Southwest TAFE. I've worked there for 5 years now. The civil construction department is pretty much my baby because it didn't exist when I started there. When they closed the doors, there was a massive gap in the market in Southwest Victoria for training. Anyone that wanted any sort of civil training had to travel at least 2 to 3 hours away to go to Geelong or Melbourne to get basically any training in civil construction. So we picked a gap in the market and we worked with that. We worked with local employers, and now 5 years, we've got myself full-time, Ben full-time. We have a casual trainer, a friend of mine, Rod, that's worked in the industry, that's worked with me and Ben in the past. And hopefully he'll be moving into a transition full-time role maybe in the future, because the need is there and we're continually growing. One thing you can guarantee if you do come to Southwest TAFE is we care about the training. We're not just about tick and flick and getting you through the door and getting you back out as quickly as you can. We want to make sure that when you go out on a job site, you're not going to kill yourself and you're not going to kill anyone else. I
think you can tell by the way Al speaks about it, we're passionate about what we do. We want people to succeed. There is a massive gap in Warrnambool, in the Warrnambool area, Southwest area, for construction workers, civil construction workers. That's our job, that's what we try and do. All we want is the best for people and hopefully get them into an industry that both Al and myself have enjoyed for the last 20, 30 years of our lives.
If you want to do a course at Southwest TAFE, simply Google SW TAFE online. Put it into your Google search, hit enter, you'll have a phone number in front of you, you'll have contacts in front of you, you can click apply now for all the courses and just find your way around the web page. It's real easy, Southwest TAFE online.
Yeah. If you're having trouble with that, by all means there'll be a number, give that number a call, and yeah, just come and see us. Walk straight into TAFE.